Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm PM Makarov, and I'm here today at the VHU, the Military History Institute in Prague, in the Czech Republic. We're taking a look at some cool prototype Czech pistols. Today, we have Project PRAK, which is Czech for Slingshot. Now, this dates to 1966, and it is the Czech experiment in seeing whether they could convert their existing CZ Model 50 pistols to 9mm Makarov. So of course, in the very late 1950s, the Makarov pistol and its cartridge were developed, and it goes on to be adopted and used pretty much throughout the entire Soviet sphere of influence, with the exception of Czechoslovakia, who kind of typically keeps to their own cartridges. So the CZ50 was chambered for 32 ACP. But, you know, maybe if it would be easy to convert these pistols to the new standard Soviet cartridge, that could be worth doing. So, in 1966, they went ahead and just pulled a standard stock CZ50 off the production line, this one, pulled the barrel, replaced it with a barrel in 9x18. Interestingly, I mean, they didn't have a standard production Makarov barrel because they weren't producing Makarovs. So the barrel that they had that they used was the barrel off of a VZ65, which was the Skorpion, the original VZ61 Skorpion, experimentally manufactured in 9x18 Makarov. So they put that barrel in, subject it to some firing tests to see if this would work. So let's take a quick look at it. I'll show you the changes that they made to it, which they're actually not that substantial. All right, so here we have the gun. If we take a look at the side, you can see the serial number B66044. That was just a standard production pistol from 1965. We have our regular proof mark and 1965 date here. This was then taken by the Army, and in 1966, they did this experiment. So they ground off the caliber marking on the slide and restamped it with a 9 for 9x18 Makarov. They then also did a proof testing on it. That's the T in a circle, indicates a military proof test. And otherwise, from the outside, the gun looks totally stock. So they wanted this, if this conversion was going to make economic sense, it had to be a pretty darn simple conversion. So no major machining required to the frame, for example. So they fabricated a new magazine for the gun. Obviously, a 32 caliber magazine is not going to hold 9mm cartridges. The mag body is fabricated new. The follower, they actually just took out of a 380 caliber Walther PP magazine. Makes sense, no need to fabricate that when something perfectly suitable already exists. Then we can take a look at the inside here. No changes made to the slide at all, except opening up the breech face in there to fit 9x18. Really, the substantial change was that of the barrel. So they put in their new barrel. You can see it's got a few little sort of hand-fitting, grindy looking marks in there. This barrel is, of course, substantially larger in, well, it's larger in diameter than the original 32 caliber barrels, so they had to do some kind of fiddling to get it fitted in place. It's not secured in as well as the original 32s, but that was part of the experiment, was to see if that would actually have an impact on the gun's functionality, which, well, actually it really didn't. We can go ahead and take the grips off as well, but there's really nothing particularly special under here. Standard CZ50 setup. And there you go, there's Project PRAK. Field stripped. I will make a quick point here that all of the other Czech prototypes we've been looking at typically have these year-based numerical designations, you know, the CZ524 or the ZKP, you know, 381. Those designations ended approximately 1954 or 55. So this being a project from 66, this was simply given a letter or a word code name, in this case Project Slingshot. We'll see the same thing with the 1981 Project Krasa. The numerical designations went away and they went to a different system. So when they put this into firing trials, they ultimately fired a total of 3,500 rounds through it. And they had a whole series of different problems throughout the test. Right off the bat, they had some extractor problems within the first 100 rounds, but they tweaked the extractor, got that fixed. It's understandable, new cartridge, new rim diameter, get the extractor right, okay. By about 500 rounds, they discovered that the hammer was peening the back of the frame, or the back of the slide. So they reground the back of the slide, rehardened it, went back, continued the testing. The next major thing that went wrong was at about 2,000 rounds, the magazine cracked, okay, and then by 2,500 rounds, it had cracked more. So they ended up replacing the magazine at about 3,000. At 3,100 rounds, the firing pin broke. They fixed that. They finished the test at 3,500, and their conclusion on this was, well, if we make this conversion, it has a lifespan of about 2,000 rounds. So a pretty reasonable takeaway. Now, they never did actually take this project any farther. By October of '66, the testing was done. They had their conclusions, and that's all that ever came of it. They never decided to make this conversion. Now, at this point, the CZ50 was not a military pistol. It was a police pistol that was also used to limited extent by like border guards. There were some officers who could buy them privately to use, but where the Soviet Union issued the Makarov as a standard military pistol, in Czechoslovakia, the VZ52, the full-size service pistol in 7.62 Tokarev, that was the army pistol. And the compact guy, the CZ50, was just basically for the police. And the Czechs wouldn't end up adopting 9mm Makarov as a military cartridge until like 15 years later in 1982 with the VZ82. It's easy to think about the CZ75, a fantastic, one of the best Czech pistols. That was never actually used by the Czech military, or at least not until after the end of socialism. So for the military of the Czechoslovakia, it was the VZ52 until the early 80s, and then the VZ82 in finally 9mm Makarov. So I thought this was a pretty cool experiment to look at. Just a neat example of testing out an idea, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So big thanks to the VHU for giving me access to this one-of-a-kind testing prototype to show to you guys. If you find yourself here in Prague, definitely set aside at least a half a day to check out the Military Museum. It's part of the VHU, and it has some really cool exhibits, including a whole bunch of unusual and interesting Czech prototype firearms. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.